Hiya and welcome to the channel. My name's Johnny. For those of you who do subscribe to me will notice that I haven't uploaded any videos lately. The main reason for that being is that I've got nothing going on. I can't think of what I want to do. No particular hobbies or projects to be carrying on with. The second reason is that where I'm working out in my outhouse, it's really cold out here, and I do use my Chinese diesel heater, but diesel is so expensive it just makes it uneconomical to come out here. By the time I put the heat in, I've spent 10 quid on diesel just to keep myself warm. So I've been spending most of the time inside the house doing a bit of drawing. Anyway, this morning my wife went to do a bit of vacuum cleaning and found that our Dyson isn't working. Now, I changed the battery recently on it because that had packed up and it was running perfectly, but this morning it's not working at all. It's dead, although it's showing a full charge. Turns out, from what I can see, it's the trigger. As you can see here, the trigger seems to be in a permanently sort of down position. There's no life to it. Normally the actual switch comes out a little bit further, so you've got a bit of travel, whereas now there is no travel. So that's telling me that something wrong with the trigger. So obviously the trigger needs replacing, but what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to try to take this whole thing apart and see if it can be repaired, and if it can't be repaired I'll just order a new trigger. I haven't checked to see if they're available or not, but I'm sure they must be, and repair it. Now, I've never taken one of these apart before other than the battery, and I think we'll begin with that anyway. I've started taking off the screws. I've only got a couple left. So to change the battery on these things, it's literally 2 screws there and 1 screw in there, and the whole thing will pop out. And that's the most common problem with these Dysons, or the cordless Dysons, of course. That's the 3 screws, and then this just lifts off like that. Let's take off. I don't know what I'm doing, so I'm going to fumble about as I'm going along. Take off the filter. Remove the case here. Pulls out to a certain point where you can see this little red flappy bit there. I'm pressing down on there and then pulling the whole assembly forward. Now I'm trying to work out where the next lot of screws are, and I believe they are in here. Yep, I've got a grip on the screw in there, so let's undo that. Right, there's only 4 that I can see, so there's another couple of screws behind in here, just behind the handle here. And I just compare them to the screws that I've taken off to see if they're any different in length and whether I should keep them separate. Right.
Did you reprogram the...
Right, so with those screws off, a little, quite easy tug, and now I've separated these 2 pieces. So now this can go aside, and now we're left with this. Next stage is to get to the switch. I think we'll have to remove all of this as well. Looking at this, there's no access to the switch from below. This assembly doesn't open up in half like a lot of like drills and things like that, hair dryers, where you can split this assembly to get to the switch. So obviously the switch has got to come from either below or above, which means I've got to take off this assembly here, and this is held in by a couple of tiny little Torx screws. These torques are really small. Luckily I've got a set of these. This is a T9 size, so let's undo these two, see what happens there. That's those two off. I can't see anything else holding it. I can see bits of plastic falling off, and seems to be where parts of this is deteriorating. The actual areas you screw into have deteriorated. Trying to pull this off, but it's held in by whatever connects the wiring from here to the switch. So my next option is to perhaps lift off this cover. Yeah, that one's tight. Okay, right, I can see a bit more of what's going on in there now. From what I'm seeing here, this circuit board could come away with this piece of plastic. These wires are soldered in. I may need to undo this somehow, and those little wires there, which seem to go down to the trigger, I think if I manage to undo those, and then there's a couple of screws here, again Torx, that should lift away the circuit board. So let's work out how to take this out. Okay, that's one. This thing is so tiny and delicate. I'm not sure which way it's meant to go to lift off. Oh, okay, that's just lifted off like that. Fine, so if I get Torx in there and undo those, that's quite tight. That's it, got it. Two. Looking at it from this angle, these wires are, with their tags, are holding the circuit into its position as well. So I'll get a pair of long nose pliers, see if I can straighten them out. this little circuit. Now, does it come with the whole rubber? Oh, okay, that bit's all come off in one go. So obviously then I didn't need to undo that thing, that could stay there, but this little wire did need to undo, and these cables here did need to be bent back. Right, so I could stick that aside now. Try and remember where all these particular screws go, and I'll try and keep them together. Right, so we're down to this assembly now. There's a couple of Torx screws in there which seem to hold this housing on where the wires are routed through. If I can get at them, they're at an awkward angle, and I haven't got a Torx screwdriver long enough to get at them. Well, luckily enough, in my tool set I managed to find this little piece which does fit in there, and with the use of this little ratchet thing I should be able to undo these. I can use this as a little screwdriver on its own. Put those separate. Now it's also seems to be held in place with these little click retainers. Okay, so now it's just a matter of pulling this through. Right, I'm going to have fun putting that bit back in, aren't I? Now I'm left with this. I've somehow got to get this switch to go down. Right there, so there is a screw right down the bottom of there. Again, it's a T9. That's that. So in theory, there should be nothing stopping this whole switch assembly from coming out. Right, I've searched online, and apparently these triggers are quite common to go on these things. They're quite a weak point. The method of removing the trigger from the handle is to grab hold of one of these terminals here and while holding that in, just pretty much yank it. It feels like it's going, but yeah, and there you go. Right, so straight away here's the problem. The trigger has broken off here. You can see the little crack there. There you go. Now I could try super gluing that, but to be honest with you, I don't fancy going through the whole process of putting that all back together again, or taking it apart again rather. So I've had a quick look on Amazon, and here on my iPad you can see they're under £4 for a whole new switch, and it does say extra strong. So I'm going to go ahead and order that, and should have it tomorrow, and I can put all this thing back together. Right, now it's the next day and this has arrived. So here's the little piece. It looks exactly like the one that's coming off, so I don't know what they mean by strengthened. Exactly the same, but anyway, let's take this one off and fit the new one on. I think that's how it goes. Okay, now time to fit the whole thing back together again. Right, so this assembly has got to go up into there, and I've got to try and get these wires to come up through there. Right, so the next thing is to get the wires to run through this unit, through this hole, out of that. I can see this is going to be a little bit tricky. That's it. You can see them just trying to come through there. These little hook tools, which bought for just a few quid, come in handy so often. There you go. A bit of manipulation, but it's now finally in. And I can put these two little screws back. That's that. Let's now put this motor in. So now what I need to do is bend these two little tags. Where are we? There we go. Yeah, bend these two little tags upwards and screw them onto those posts. I'll just use a pair of tweezers to try and drop those screws in. There's one on. The hardest thing is getting these tags to align with the holes, because the wires are quite heavy duty. They go in where they want to go, not where I want them to go. nut there on nicely. And the final thing is getting this little wire back into position. Do you know what, I can't quite remember how it went. Oh shoot. Alright. Okay, I've just broken off the tag which this little switch was going into. So I've seen a couple of little bits of metal fall out there somewhere. So I'll say this is now ruined and no longer fit for purpose. Yeah, that thing is so delicate. So I don't know if you can see it here, but with this in the way, but there would be. So this was meant to slide into an assembly here which had two little pins sticking out there. Well, I've forced it and now broken it, so that's that no longer going to work. My only option now is to cut this off and try to solder onto those two little bits there. That's the only way I'm going to save this, otherwise it's going to be for the bin. Right, I've just put it on a stand. My first impulse was to fling this thing across the room. This is my stupid mistake there, trying to force it too hard. Yeah. What I'm going to do is cut these wires and try to solder them on the places where it's got solder are so tiny, they really are small. That's the only way I'm going to save this right now, and hope what I'm doing is going to work. So in for a penny. Right, that's the plug taken off. Now try and strip these tiny little things as well, which is nigh impossible. I'm using a scalpel to try and remove the outer covering. You can't be too heavy-handed on this because trying to use a wire stripper is only going to tear the wire itself. So, alright, that's one done. What I want to do is put a little bit of flux on the end of that wire there, so the solder sticks to it. Right, I don't know if you can see in there what I've done. I've now soldered these wires directly onto the contacts, and if I've done that properly, everything should work the way it was. Alright, so here's hoping that I've soldered those two wires on properly. I've just tried plugging in the battery to see if anything happens, but nothing happens, so maybe this thing has got to be plugged into another part of the assembly before I see anything happen. So just have to have a go at it and see. Oh, I've forgotten the sequence of screws, so I'm just going to go by what I think it might be. Now, moment of truth. Keep my fingers crossed now. Right, so battery's in. That's it, and it's working. Even though I had that little mishap with the wires inside. That's stupid of me. I was a bit too heavy-handed there, but luckily I've managed to save it. So now that's repaired, give it to my wife. She can carry on cleaning. I know she'll be happy. Thanks for watching, and catch you on the next video.